Good afternoon, everyone. Kyrgyzstan, one of the largest lakes and river outflows tucked into the region with a long history of the Silk Road. They sure know when cycles are changing. Let's go back 4,000 years and see how many changes. Do you think they would know a grand solar minimum is inbound? That would be 10 of these cycles. Just as the country shuts down cryptocurrency mining farm in a greenhouse, it is about the water resources, and Kyrgyzstan's going to be cutting off some water to some neighbors. But in the southwest of the country, they're going to be trading this dam for 80 square kilometers of land. This may go bye-bye, or maybe not. You need the water to grow food, or are they anticipating pulling out of Transboundary aquifers? Because in that region, there are 411,000 square kilometers of water under the surface. That's the reason there were so many greenhouses and the expansion plans for tens and hundreds of thousands more greenhouses. Libya did it. Nubian aquifer, food for the people. New grow zone. Look at all the water available if you were going to turn the Sahel into a crop growing area. President Biden's economic decisions are gripping our nation, and everyday Americans are watching as their purchasing power continues to fall further, and the uncertainty of what's ahead in 2022. This administration has moved forward with $6.6 trillion of spending, and next on the agenda is the greatest tax hike in generations. Economists are comparing our current inflationary environment to 1970s inflation, and if you look back, gold was up 20x and silver 37x from 1970 to 1980. Learn how simple it is to add physical gold and silver to your portfolio ahead of the rise in inflation and predicted price rises. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-356-4470 and get a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. And these next few years are going to be about the food, the ability to grow it, the lack or amount of fertilizers, and how expensive the prices are going to get. The next 5 years are going to be the food years. Whether you grow it in open fields or whether you grow it in greenhouses, whoever controls water resources is going to control food supply. A drop in here in Kyrgyzstan's largest lake catchment basin. This feeds several other countries with the outflows, but Kyrgyzstan said, we are going to turn off water flows outbound because we need that for our own agriculture and electricity production. So anticipate getting less water. And some of the neighbors they refer to are the same neighbors sharing the old Silk Road. Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, all neighbors with thousands of years of travelers in history, especially climatic records. So let's say in earnest the Silk Road was in its infancy 3,000 years ago, being scouted out 4,000 years prior. We'll have to go all the way back into the Neoglacial, and how many cycles of massive cooling and heating have there been? So 2 areas of contention for water from Kyrgyzstan, maybe a flashpoint in the region. This one seems to have been solved. That yellow line is the border between 2 nations splitting through a dam. Undecided, disputed territory. That's an interesting place to have disputed territory because once a river, now a dam. Plentiful water means plentiful agriculture in a dry area. So, of course, people would be very, very, very concerned if their water was to be taken away from them. But Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan have come to an agreement, a swap, if you will. Kyrgyzstan's going to hand over this dam to Uzbekistan in exchange for 80 square kilometers of land. Now, they were in such a hurry to resolve this, which means they really needed to get the resources in order of who owns what to move forward with the new food production plans in the country. Because when you look here at the Transboundary aquifers across Central Asia, by far, Kazakhstan has the most in the country as well as spilling over into neighbor borders. But we're interested in a tiny little section of this in the far east and to the south of Kazakhstan. And as I was talking with Jeff Nyquist earlier today, Russian foreign affairs expert, he was telling me that Russia still controls a lot of what's going on. So, of course, they're going to move their food production further south, especially in Russia when they're having more difficulty. It's getting colder. They're going to sub out the food production into these nations. And we're going to really zoom right down into where you see the red and yellow jutting into what looks like the mountains. That's where that lake/dam is that's being exchanged for land. So when you look at this, and especially the capital Bishkek, aquifer from Kazakhstan also sharing that. And it's 411,000 square kilometers within this region alone. That's an enormous amount of possibility to take an arid region in greenhouse, computer controlled, and grow an enormous amount of food. So the area down near Osh is what's being traded. Now, what I see is above ground water resources being traded for below ground water resources and access to the Transboundary aquifer. You're sure not transferring all that water from Bishkek over those several mountain ranges. But look how flat it is. How much water's in the areas that could be easily built out with agricultural infrastructure undercover. And looking at the areas here by aquifer and the wells being plunged down in there, the AS-47, that's Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and a sliver now of Kyrgyzstan, the Tashkent aquifer. It's only 21,000 square kilometers of water under there. And the country can also take advantage of the shared aquifer with approximately 50,000 square kilometers of water underneath it, border area right there with Kazakhstan, right under Bishkek as well. Proof of concept is where we want to go. Libya, Gaddafi had done this. That's the Nubian sandstone aquifer system we're looking at. About 13,000 square kilometers of water just in Libya alone. And there were some 100,000 hectares, about 250,000 acres of food production until the U.S. went in and destroyed all the water pipelines and aqueducts. Which makes me think that North Africa and the Sahel is a hot piece of property right now. Grow zones go offline if you have to restructure agriculture elsewhere. Increasing rainfall from the West African monsoon, and then look at what you can tap. That's millions of square kilometers of water. And a lot of people sure have left there in the last few years. Almost empty now. But it is all about the water. And politically, is it really about this arm wrestling match to get an extra couple gallons out of the rivers? Or is this something much deeper for regional survival as we head into this grand solar minimum? Playing the cards close to the chest. Now back to the cryptocurrency mining farms that were shut down in greenhouses disguised. It's very strange how these two are interlooping here. But the state said that it was disrupting the electrical grid with 2,500 mining rigs. So I don't know how robust the entire country's grid is if 2,500 mining rigs are going to take out your country's grid. That sounds more like an excuse to me than it does actual interference. But it did link back to these greenhouses. Then off Sputnik News, it talks about Kyrgyzstan just expanding greenhouses like every country is doing right now. But asking the simple question, where was the extra water going to come from except for the dam? And I think we have our answer. Trading land to be able to put wells down into that aquifer in exchange for some river flow. Now, another thing that Kyrgyzstan was doing was really trying to court miners to come over, which makes almost no sense to me, where they're closing down a 2,500 rig mining operation, quote unquote, illegal, But then they're inviting mining companies to come in to run mining rigs, but then they want to charge them 15% tax. So if they do invite institutional and stock market listed mining companies, and we're talking about cryptocurrency mining, not rare earth minerals, there could be 100,000 rigs in the country, but that's okay as long as the tax is forthcoming. But back to the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Economy. Apparently, they have been studying Silk Road records for the United Nations and also putting out working papers asking for feedback. What do they know about these cycles? And their sudden interest in all things water, all things greenhouse, all things cryptocurrency. But whatever's happening during this time of change, food's going to get really expensive. You're going to want to think about storable foods, whether you buy it yourself, pack it yourself for long-term food storage, if not the 3-month emergency food supply, and Adapt 2030. That link's in the description box below, along with all of tonight's images, stories, and links so you can jump out, wander through history, and do more of your own research. I do appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.